All right, hello, wine drinking people. Today is Saturday, January 29th, just finishing out this first month of 2011. And man, have we had some great events here at the Wine Watch. And the Madiera tasting, which happened a week ago, man. I don't know how the heck did it take me this long to get around to talking about this one. This is one of my favorite subjects in the world of wine. Madiera, an island off the coast of North Africa, producing some of the world's longest lived wines. We've got a special relationship with Madiera in this country because, hey, our colonists, when Betsy Ross was knitting that flag, when Benjamin Franklin was doing whatever the heck it was he was doing to get so important to be put on the $100 bill, they were nipping on a little Madiera. You know why? Because the colonists didn't have to pay taxes on Madiera. And you know how us Americans do not like to pay taxes. Well, these wines also are very special, like all wines are because of the place where they're from. Madiera, a volcanic island, also was at one time a very wooded island. Actually, that's what the name means. And there was one of the people in charge of the island at some point, one of the governors, decided a good way to clear off the woods would be to burn them. And so they decided to light the woods on fire, and 7 years later, the whole entire island had burned down. And they think that this ash, in addition to the volcanic nature of the soil, is one of the things that lends this unique acidity to the wine. And Madiera is all about the varietals, and you've got four main types of Madiera, which we had all four of them on this evening. And in addition, some very rare Madeiras, if you would imagine, because, hey, we had Mr. Madiera here himself, Dr. Bob Maliner. He is probably the largest collector of Madiera in the world, or definitely was at one time. But we've got a lot of Madiera to drink with Bob. This has become an annual event, and this was the second event that we did with these wines. And usually they get better after a couple of months. There was only one wine that we felt had lost a little something on this tasting, but man, it was still delicious. Well, we started out with the 1789, which was the Old Dog, and we had this wine listed as Surcial and Verdejo because Bob didn't know what kind of grapes went into it. Those are two different varietals that they use. And in the end, because of its savory nature, we decided it was probably a Surcial, but still an incredible experience to drink a wine this old. And then 2 months after we'd opened the bottle, man, the wine was still singing. The Camaralamos, a very famous wine from the island of Madiera, and one that it's very almost impossible to find these today. Hey, we still have a 1789 Tarentaise from Barbietto in the store, the oldest commercially available wine in the world. That's like $4,000 a bottle. And the Madeiras that we took down on this evening, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this event, but hey, we still got a little wine left. If anybody's interested in tasting these Madeiras, I may put on a special event, a third Madiera tasting with the same exact wines in a week or two. You guys let me know if you want to drink history with me a third time. All right. Well, 1789 showed up again. It really was, one of the legendary wines, a second time for the second tasting. And even after 2 months of being open, this wine had lost a little bit of that rancido character that it had. That's one of the things that I think Madiera does when it opens up. It takes on these lovely nutty and fudge kind of flavors when they get to be this old. And hey, this wine wasn't bottled until 1950. So it had been in cask for all that time. And Madiera, once it's put in bottle, really doesn't change very much. All right, we had a 1905 De Oliveira Verdejo, which is another one of the drier styles of Madiera. This wine was also singing a second wine, one of my favorite wines in the tasting again. And the 1954 Tarentaise was next. Tarentaise is a varietal that they believed was extinct for a period of time, and then several producers have brought it back. But this was several tasters' wine of the night. Tarentaise is kind of in between Verdejo and Malmsey in terms of style of sweetness. And then next up, we had a Jardin Private Reserve Bual, and this wine had 1906 on the vintage, but this was when the wine was bottled. So Bob did not know exactly, when this wine was, what vintage it was from, but it was supposedly a vintage wine from the 19th century. And then that wine was delicious. And one of the other things you get from these old wines, other than that nutty character, that little bit of rancido, you get this lovely kind of citrus zest on the finish that just refreshes your palate. The acidity may be much for some people, but this also lends it to food. And we had a wonderful meal, again, with this prepared by Tony. And that's the first night we had our country pâté, actually, with the cornichon and the mustard. Really went beautifully. That acidity, it works really nicely with fatty food like bacon and pork. All right. Next up, we had the 1908 Bual. Bual, one of the sweeter styles of Madiera. Really starting to take on those fudgy characters now, and that mocha. Really nice and still lovely freshness. And the 1906, like I said, was the only wine that seemed to lose a little bit, but still drinking beautifully. The 1907 Malvasia. This wine was nice. One of my favorite wines of the night, had that lovely caramel and fudge thing going on there also. And then the 20 Cossart Malmsey, one of the more famous wines from this for this type of varietal Malmsey. They say 1880. 1908 and 1920 be some of the best vintages for this wine. But singing again for the second time a few months later. And then we finished up with the 1952 Barbietto Muscatel, dates, figs, and really nice freshness on this wine, just like with all the wines. And like I said, if you guys want to drink these wines a third time, just give me a buzz. If I get 1 or 2 people call me, I will put the date on the calendar. All right, folks, I'm your host, Andrew Lampazone, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.